Hello there, it is day 7 of Demonic Pacts reveals. It's crazy, we are already 1 week through reveal season. And as per usual, Jagex has revealed to us yet another relic. This time we'll be taking a look at yet another tier 8 relic, this time called Flask of Fervour. So this is going to be another tier 8 relic that competes with the minion relic that we talked about a few days ago, and is yet another example of a more combat focused relic. And oh boy, do I have some thoughts about this one. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. If you take the Flask of Fervor, you will receive, guess what? The Flask of Fervour. This sort of acts like a potion in your inventory, and you can click on it to consume it. So when the flask is consumed, your hit points and prayer points will both be restored to full. Additionally, your special attack energy will also be restored to 100%. Over the next 2.4 seconds, the sigil will trigger 3 explosions, which deal 60% of your base prayer level, or 30% in PvP scenarios, to all enemies within 3 tiles of you. And this is considered typeless damage. Also in these 2.4 seconds, all incoming damage towards you is reduced to 0. So you will not take any damage while this is active. And just like we saw with the minion relic, these explosions cannot be used to deal damage to Yama. So we're sticking with that theme of the tier 8 relics not being usable against him, which again, for thematic purposes, I think is kind of funny. So that's what happens when you activate the flask. After doing so, you will not be able to activate it again for 3 minutes. So it has a 3-minute cooldown, but they've added this little bit in here that says for every 10 damage you deal in a single hit, it reduces the cooldown of the flask by 0.6 seconds. So 1 game tick. So this means that as you are dealing damage, you are going to be passively recharging the flask depending on how much damage you do. Okay, so there is so much to unpack about this relic. First of all, it does seem like this is going to be this league's replacement for Undying Retribution or Last Stand from Trailblazer Reloaded and Raging Echoes respectively. Sort of that instant heal, save you from death, immediate tank all damage type of relic. But the big change here this time around is that this will not trigger automatically when you reach 0 hit points like Undying Retribution and Last Stand did. So it's not exactly the get out of jail free card that a lot of us have come to know and love from this type of relic. I know a lot of people, myself included, have been really excited about this type of relic because it's really useful if you make a big mistake in PVM and you are expected to take a whole lot of damage, you know, thinking your Zook fights, your Coliseum, maybe if you're doing like hard mode raids. It has been really nice to have that relic that will just save you if you are about to die. This one is going to act a lot more like an ambrosia potion from the Tombs of Amasket, where you are going to need to click it before you actually die, which takes a bit more skill to do, right? This does give you a lot more freedom of when you want to trigger it though. If you wanted the extra damage that something like Last Stand or Undying Retribution provided, you had to find a way to get your own hit points down to 0 to trigger that sort of big boost of damage. Whereas in this scenario, as long as it's not on cooldown, you'll be able to click that flask whenever you want. So this is going to be a lot better for those scenarios where you are not taking a lot of damage, you know, thinking your Slayer tasks, raid bosses, or Coliseum or Inferno when you just want a big boost of damage and you're not in fear of dying. You're going to be able to use this to get that passive damage boost from those explosions, as well as giving you a lot of utility surrounding restoring hit points, prayer, and special attack. And I think this could be comboed really well with some echo items. I know a lot of them last league had really powerful special attacks, so this relic might be able to be used in combination with those to trigger those special attacks more frequently. So, you know, there's that bit of a trade-off. You get more flexibility here, but again, it's not that get out of jail free card that we have come to know and love. And I think that is going to make a lot of people shy shy away from this relic. Already on the Discord, I can see a lot of people talking about how they are disappointed in this one, how they probably like the look of the minion relic more so than this one. So we will have to see how everything shakes up once the league is actually going, how many people are actually going to take this one. Speaking of other discussions surrounding this relic, I think some people are confused about the radius of the explosion. So it says it will trigger 3 explosions to all enemies within 3 tiles of you. So within 3 tiles. I think I've mapped this out correctly. Every tile that I see here looks like it's in 3 tiles of one's self. So this looks like a 7x7 square, which is exactly what Undying Retribution said from Trailblazer Reloaded. So I think this is the same size. Now I do have to say, Undying Retribution from Trailblazer Reloaded had some annoying properties surrounding its AoE explosion damage, and it had to do with NPC positioning in relation to yourself. Okay, so I've created a little illustration here to try and get this point across in case you don't remember this from Undying Retribution or you didn't take it that league. The way that it worked against damaging NPCs is that it would only damage them if their southwest tile was within the blast radius. So as you can see here, I have a little diagram with 2 jads in here. One is to the north of me and one is to the west of me. The gray tiles indicate the explosion radius and the orange tiles indicate the explosion radius that would be underneath an NPC. And the red tiles are tiles that the NPC has that are outside of the explosion radius. So as you can see here, the northernmost jad's southwest tile is directly next to me. Therefore, it's within the explosion radius. Therefore, this jad would take damage from Undying Retribution. Whereas the jad to the west of me, their southwest tile is outside of the blast radius. So despite the fact that the majority of the jad itself is still within this explosion zone, the fact that its southwest tile was not meant that it would not take damage from the blast. And so this kind of led to some awkward situations where you think that you would deal damage to a mob and it turns out they were too big or in the wrong position. It also meant that you couldn't damage mobs such as Zook, who were just completely too far away from it. And so this is something that I feel like they corrected last league with Last Stand, which just gave you a basic stat boost whenever you would drop to 0 hit points. And it meant that it didn't matter where an NPC was in relation to your character. Now, one thing I will say is that we do not yet have confirmation about whether or not Flask of Fervour will work in this same way. It's possible that they identified this shortcoming of Undying Retribution and they fixed it here such that any NPC that is within the blast radius at all will take damage from it. I hope that that is the case, because if not, it does add an extra thing onto this relic that makes it feel not as good, which I think is already too much the case for the relic. And in a similar vein, I think it's worth talking about how the cooldown works for the relic, because there are some questions surrounding it and what affects it. Thankfully, our wonderful mod Husky is working overtime this weekend and actually went into the code base on a Sunday and gave us some more clarification on how the cooldown works and what affects it. So I'm going to read you that info here. He says that the cooldown reduction is damage divided by 10 ticks. So what this means is that a hit that is a multiple of 10 will reduce the cooldown by multiple ticks. I know some people were reading the relic and thinking that, oh, if I hit a 50 damage, is that still only going to reduce the cooldown by a single tick? And no, that is not the case. But the hits do have to be, again, in multiples of 10. So as you see here, if you deal between 0 and 9 damage, that doesn't reduce the cooldown at all. Between 10 and 19, it reduces it by a single tick, and so on and so forth. Also, he clarifies that the explosion damage from the relic does not reduce the cooldown. I think this is kind of unfortunate. Maybe they were worried that it would be too overpowered, especially in like a big multi-combat scenario, that you could proc it and deal a whole bunch of damage and essentially be able to use the relic over and over and over consistently without much cooldown at all, which, I mean, does sound pretty cool, but maybe that's seemed a little overpowered for them. I think it is kind of an unfortunate effect. He says that multi-hit weapons and AoE effects, so barrages, chinchompas, that sort of thing, all of those individual hit splats will reduce cooldown. So if you barrage a big clump of monsters and all of those hits happen to be above 10, each hit splat in and of itself will reduce the cooldown by a separate amount. So that's cool. And I think it means if you take this relic, you will want to look into sources of AoE damage. Also, he does clarify here the maximum amount of damage that can be dealt by the explosion. Because as you remember, this is based on your base prayer level. So at a maximum base prayer level of 99, each hit will deal 59 damage, so 177 damage total. So that is all really good clarification, but we still have to look at the math of this cooldown. 3 minutes in a PVM encounter is not a trivial amount of time, especially in a league when you're doing things super quickly. And if it has a base cooldown of 3 minutes, and if every 10 damage you deal reduces that cooldown by a single tick, do some quick math on the screen, and that means that you will have to deal at minimum 3,000 damage to fully recharge this. And that's only considering if you were doing this on perfect intervals of 10, which is not likely at all. A lot of your hits will be generating less of this cooldown reduction than the math right here suggests, because you'll be hitting things like 15, which will only reduce it by a single tick. You'll hit a 19, that still only reduces it by a single tick, even though at this point you have done 34 points of damage, you've still only reduced the cooldown by 2 ticks. So again, in reality, you will have to deal a lot more than 3,000 damage to fully recharge this thing. Now, of course, as you are attacking, time is passing, and that is also recharging it. So you've kind of got these two things working together, both time and damage that you're dealing, to collectively give you your flask back sooner. So I don't know how frequently you'll actually be able to use this thing. I mean, if you compare it to Undying Retribution and Last Stand, you are going to be using it way more frequently than the two of those, because each of those had a static 3-minute cooldown that could only be reset if you actually perished. So like comparing it to that, you'll get to use this a lot more often, which again is going to be giving you passive DPS increases in your PVM encounters, and it's going to be restoring your prayer hit points and special attack. If you're looking at it from a straight damage increase perspective, I still personally think that Minion is going to be a better DPS increase, but this might be situational. Again, if you're in a situation where you're doing a lot of AoE attacks, maybe you're barraging, maybe you have a Venator bow, maybe you have Chinchompas, I could see this flask recharging very quickly. But in flat out solo encounters, when you're attacking a single target, a single boss, I think Minion will do more DPS over that time. But again, without those restoration effects that this has, which brings me to the last point that I kind of want to talk about here, and also we have to discuss the bonus Echo Boss reveal today. And the two of those go kind of hand in hand today. Basically, I want to discuss this theory that's going around that our beloved Banker's Note relic might not be making a comeback this league. At least not how we know it from previous leagues. If you know the Banker's Note relic, which I'm sure most of you do, you know that one of its primary uses in PVM is to bring basically unlimited food and prayer into these encounters. And if this theory is correct that that relic is not making a return, then maybe this Flask of Fervor starts to look a lot more enticing to people. You can't spam it over and over like you could a Banker's Note to just unlimited food and potions, but it does give you a lot of extra hit points and prayer in a longer sort of encounter, because you will be able to use the flask over and over. And if you think about relics from a design standpoint, would Jagex really put these benefits on this relic if Banker's Note already existed and they anticipated a lot of people taking it? So I don't know if this is sort of an indicator that we will not be seeing that relic again. Leaning into that line of thinking further is today's Echo Boss reveal, which says that you can harness the ultimate power of restoration and renew both your prayer and hit points with a new ranged Echo item. They are confirming that Echo Hespori is going to be returning to the Korend region, and as you can see here, it drops a new Echo item, a short bow forged from tangled roots. So here we have it again, another item that they are saying is going to restore prayer and hit points. And if they were planning on Banker's Note making a comeback, making a return, would they be promoting or adding, for that matter, all of these effects that restore things like prayer and hit points, when with Banker's Note in the game, those are kind of mute points. I don't want to doom and gloom too much right now, but it really seems like a lot of things are pointing to that relic not making a comeback. I have seen some theories that maybe it will just be a modified form of the relic. One of my favorite theories that I just want to put out there in case this is true, because I would love to point back to this video and be like, oh my gosh, like we actually predicted that. But one of my favorite theories is that they will swap Banker's Note out for a relic, something like Demon Butler. In one of the first teaser videos that they posted on March 21st is this really cool shot of Yama in the background on his throne, the table of relics that we've been seeing, and look what is standing next to him. A demon butler wearing a tuxedo. I love the way that this guy looks, but I'm wondering if this was actually a teaser all along. Think about a relic like Banker's Note, but with a bit of a cooldown attached to it. Think about a relic that gives you access to a player-owned house servant type of NPC that you can call and have it retrieve items from your bank for you. Maybe retrieve or store items, and then it leaves and it takes a couple of seconds for it to come back in the same way that a servant in a POH does. I could absolutely see them adding something like that, which would still give you some of the utility of a Banker's Note type relic, but without the instant feedback that we're used to, where you can just spam unnote or note things. I think that this would fit into the theme that we're seeing with a lot of these relics, where they are, for lack of a better term, nerfing them, or at the very least changing how they function around. You know, we saw this with the Clue relic, we definitely saw it with the Slayer relic. I think we're seeing that here with the Flask of Fervour. They really want to mix up what the relic effects are this league, and so because of that, I could see them reworking Banker's Note in this sort of way. Time will tell if that's actually the case. Again, this is absolutely just speculation on my part, but I wanted to present it out there as a theory because it would be really fun to, again, be able to point back to this point if that were to come true and say, oh. So anyways, all of that to say, I personally am not too excited about the Flask relic. I think when compared to Minion, I am much more likely to take Minion, but as I keep saying, we're still early on into the reveal season and we don't know what else is going to be revealed as far as relics go. We still have no idea what combat masteries are going to bring us, but we are now reaching the point where we're seeing multiple relics in a single tier, and so it's going to be easier to directly compare a this versus that. Are you going to take this relic? Are you going to take that relic, since they're in direct competition with one another? It's also fair to say that these are the latest relics that we will get, so even if you haven't decided which one you're going to take by the time the league starts, you've got a lot of time when you're working up your other relic tiers to get to that point before you have to make that decision. So I wouldn't stress too hard about trying to figure out which of these is better at this time. So yeah, there is the first week of reveals done. We have a lot of relics on the board and 2 tiers that still have nothing in them. The prevailing theory right now is that tier 7 is going to be a Total Recall versus some sort of Banker's Note. So I'm wondering if that is where we're going to see either that relic or, again, something similar to it but a reworked version. Maybe that Demon Butler will indeed be coming to us in the form of a relic. And the fact that they haven't revealed anything in tier 5 to me is very intriguing. Something that is brand new this league are player designed relics. If you remember back to Gridmaster, the first 3 players to complete every single task on that grid have been given the opportunity to design a relic for this league. And so far, we haven't heard anything about those. I know that when they reveal those relics, they are going to tell us, oh, this one was designed by this player, this one was designed by this player. So the fact that they have not said any of that, and the fact that all the relics so far have been things that we are used to, you know, reworks of other relics or other combinations of relics. My current theory is that this tier 5 category is going to see all 3 of these player designed relics put up against each other. And I would not be surprised if they reveal all 3 of them at the same time. Anyways, I'm very intrigued to see what they put in that slot and what those players came up with. And I feel like the longer we go before actually hearing any information about it, the more excited I am going to be. And that's pretty much just the case for all of these reveals and leaks. I am starting to get really excited about this league. I just want them to give us so much more information. And so every single day I look forward to the reveals reveals that come out, and I hope that you do as well. And I think that's where we can leave today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave it a like. Please, in the comments down below, let me know what you think about the Flask of Fervor. Are you excited about it? Do you think it has some uses? Are you upset that they have changed the Last Stand or Undying Retribution type of relic and turned it into this? Do you think this relic is good? Do you think it's absolute garbage? What are your predictions for Banker's Note? What are your predictions for the player designed relics? We still have over 2 weeks to go before the league launches, so there is a ton of information that we still need to get, a ton more reveals to do. And so if you are excited about that prospect, please consider clicking the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all of these daily update videos. That is where I'm going to leave it, so I will see all of you tomorrow.